We'll talk about plenty of NBA stuff here in the next couple months, along with college basketball and baseball starting up. But NFL Combine this past weekend, it's a big favorite of JT and myself. There's always some amazing performances, right? Whether it's John Ross with the 40-yard dash or someone pumping out a lot of bench presses. But Jerm, let's start with you. You're the guest. Let's start with you. Spit that knowledge. Give us 2 winners and 2 losers from the NFL Combine this past weekend.
So I had 2 winners. I got a offensive player, defensive player. Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon, with a 4.39 40-yard dash. Like for a tight end, for somebody as big as he is, what is he, like 6'3", 250, somewhere around there? When you're erasing Vernon Davis's records, that's Vernon Davis hasn't played in a long time. So when you're somebody who's doing stuff like that, you definitely get the nod in my book. So, again, he had a top speed of almost 24 miles per hour, which is exactly what Jahmyr Gibbs hit. And the catch there is that Sadiq has 40 pounds more muscle on him. So if you're looking for some type of versatile piece, I think I'd go with that. And then on the defensive side, I mean, I don't know, probably heard this guy's name all week, Sonny Styles from Ohio State. Just all types of stuff that he's been doing. I'm a big nerd when it comes to some of these advanced analytics. They have the relative athletic score where he earned a perfect score on that. The 43.5-inch vertical. He had the 4.46, and then the 10-yard split, which was at like 1.5. So if you're looking for a defensive back that has all the tools and all the power and all the intangibles, then Sonny Styles is your guy.
JT.
I mean, he stole the thunder, man. I mean, yeah, those guys were insane.
I mean, Sonny Styles stole the thunder,
I mean, so I'm actually going to go with 2 guys from the same school. So I don't know what they're putting in the water down there at Arkansas, but they need to start winning more games because they got all kind of freak athletes. I'm going to just start calling them LSU North because these 2 dudes from Arkansas, they lit it up. So I'm going to go with the running back, Mike Washington Jr., 6'1", 225, runs a 4.33. So I know Jerm was like, he loves the analytics and, the advanced metrics. That's the fastest 40 time for someone 220 pounds or more in almost 20 years. I'm like, who's making these people? Like, that's insane. And then he had a 1.51 10-yard split, which is fastest amongst all running backs at the Combine. So that means he has the short area quickness too. And Jerm was just talking about the relative athletic score, the RAS. He also had a 10. So, I mean, it's insane. And I think he's a winner, too, because I feel like this athleticism didn't always translate to big numbers throughout his career because he's also, like, bottom in stats like missed tackles and, like, 10-yard runs and stuff like that. But when you run that kind of 40 and have that kind of performance, somebody going to, bump you up their draft board. So I think he was a winner. And then the other one, Don, I don't know if I'm stealing your thunder because I know you're a sucker for quarterbacks to just show up and do crazy things. But we got to go with Taylor Green. I mean, 6'6". They were saying he had the best numbers all around for a quarterback athletically since 2003. 4.36 40, 43.5-inch vertical, 11.2 broad jump, and he was slinging the ball in the passing drills. Shit, if Anthony Richardson can go top 5, like somebody going to take a chance on this kid in the first 2 rounds after this show. And so those are my 2 winners.
Those are all good. I'm going to go with more of the guys in the trenches. I'm going to start with a guy from your school, JT, over at UCF, Malachi Lawrence, defensive end, edge rusher, outside linebacker type of guy in a class that is loaded with talent, high-end talent at the edge rush position. He needed a big day. He needed to make a splash, get his name out there, having come from UCF. And he produced 6'4", 253 long arms. He finished second in both the vertical leap and broad jump, and in a 4.5 240 from a guy who's 6'4", 253 playing on the line. That 40 time was only behind Arvell Reese and David Bailey. Oh, by the way, those 2 guys might go top 5, no worse than top 10, and now he's right there with them. He's still a work in progress, but this is why I think when we look at winners and losers, you have to look at who has the most that they can win or jump up the board. And he was one of those guys with a big day. Could he now, is the number one combine winner? For me, he definitely helped this case the most. And then on the other side of the ball, Monroe Freeling, offensive tackle out of Georgia, his day took him from maybe like a fringe first round talent to maybe in the top half of the first round. So he went from at best maybe sneaking into the first. Now they're talking, middle of the first round. That's a big jump, and that's a big jump for signing bonuses for him. And he's 6'7", 315. You talked about the 10-second split out of the 40, Jerm. He ran a 1.71 10-yard split in the 40, ranked second among all of offensive linemen. So in a draft class, again, with a lot of offensive linemen, he happened to really stand out, which was impressive. So I don't think we named the two losers yet, and that's a strong word. That's a word that JT would use. So let's say you
ain't never used the word loser before. That's why I can't do shows with you. You're trying to come on here with this Boy Scout shit attitude. Like you're the biggest shit talker I know. You want me to pull up conversations, all the text messages, every group chat you're in? All you do is talk crap about people. Now you're trying to act like you're a choir boy on air.
The Last Boy Scout, great movie, by the way. The Last Boy Scout.
They weren't choir boys in that movie.
So Jerm, let's go with the two guys that maybe they saw their draft stock plummet the most because of their performance, or has a lot more question marks now.
Yeah. So defensive tackle Lee Hunter from Texas Tech was one that kind of stood out to me. NFL's getting faster, especially on the front line, on that defensive line, and you're 318, which is, I don't know if you guys noticed the trend for a lot of these linemen, offensive and defensive. A lot of them are getting lighter. They're not getting, they're not really getting like the days of like the Warren Sapps and the Albert Hainsworths guys, like who could just fill up a line, are over with. You have to be athletic. You have to be in shape. And there's nothing wrong with being 318. We've seen plenty of 300+ pound guys who are in shape and can move fast. And this guy for me sounded, he didn't get the memo. You're running a 5.18. That's me. That's me running out there. 21-inch vertical. I could get you 21. And, I don't play professional football. So, especially when you compare him to the other defensive linemen who went out this year, where defensive linemen as a whole set a record for the average fastest 40 time in history, and you're the slowest guy in that group, for me is a death sentence in the draft stock. So if that can sound unfair to him, but basically he told everybody that I can be outrun on the edge, and that's not really what you want to hear if you're a defensive tackle. The other one is Malachi Fields from Notre Dame. He's the second slowest in the receiver group, and in a league that basically separation is like the buzzword, the keyword. You have to be able to get separation, and the guy with a contested catch speed of 4.6 means you're not fast enough. You can't keep up, and you can't fit anywhere if you can't get separation, and then you're not also physical enough to basically get yourself open. So now we got a scheme for you. You're a liability is what you've been basically telling all the scouts. And for a guy coming out of Notre Dame, not a good look for Malachi. So those are my two.
Well, I'll jump in real quick. Jerm stole one of mine, and I'll just follow up on the Malachi Fields because that's who I had. 6'5", 218, ran a 4.61. And on top of that, Jerm, he dropped at least one, I think maybe a couple passes in the gauntlet there when he's running down the line. So, you got to be able to create separation, as you just said. So now I'm looking at him and like, are you another Calvin Benjamin, essentially? Like, can you not create separation? Are you going to be a guy that we thought could stretch the field vertically with your size, but you can't really? And now we're just throwing, contested jump balls, and at best it's 50-50. So to me, in a class, and on top of that, this is a class that is just loaded with wide receivers. We could see 6 go in the first round. So now you put these measurables there, it's a problem. Like Malachi Fields is going to have to battle back. I don't know if he has a pro day coming up, but he's gonna have to go to work on that 40 time. JT, who are your two?
I like how you said the receivers. I mean, there's so many talented ones in this draft, and I feel like you could have picked a number of one of them disappointed. Tate from Ohio State disappointed a little bit. I think Mekhi Lemon did good, but everyone's going to criticize his interviewing. I don't know if that's an act that he's putting on. He's just really like that. But
JT, I was thinking about that because you read a lot. I read a lot of articles as I'm sure you did, and I'm wondering if that's a smokescreen from some other teams hoping that he'll fall down the board, right? Like if I'm sitting there as the Steelers, now maybe that's too far, but if I'm more in the mid-teens there, and I know, hey, maybe Lemon gets to like 10 or 12. Can I get him to drop a couple more spots to me? So let me put some of this, false information out there that, terrible interviewer, this and that. And all of a sudden he's sliding down the board. And now we have the steal of the draft.
Yeah, but I'm going to go with Denzel Boston from Washington. First of all, he didn't even run the 40. So you got all these guys showing their athleticism. He's like, nah, I'm not going to run the 40. So if you're not going to run the 40, you at least better kill the drills. And he didn't. Talking about the gauntlet, he dropped multiple passes in the gauntlet. So this is a guy I saw, they were mocking him to like mid to late first round. Like he could have been wide receiver 4 in this class. Like that's what he was battling for. And now with this kind of performance, like you said about the pro day, he's going to need that to really, boost that draft stock up to where it was pre-combine. And my other loser is Emmett Johnson, the running back. And only because a lot of people had him as potentially the RB2 behind Jeremiah Love. It's like Jeremiah Love, and then there's a big teardrop, but like somebody's got to be number 2, right? And a lot of people were thinking it was going to be Emmett Johnson, but he ran the slowest 40 amongst the running backs, 4.56, but at 5'11", 200 pounds. Just to let you know, like how bad that is. Jerm, going back to you, I know you like the relative athletic score. So we talked about how these other guys killed it with like perfect 10s. This guy had a 6.16. So that landed him in the 61st percentile, which is amongst running backs that bad since 1987. So it's just not looking like he's gonna have an uphill battle to be successful in the NFL. Like you're talking about athleticism that has not been this bad since the 80s. Usually guys that are small and not that fast don't work out in the NFL. So those are my 2 losers. Or guys that hurt their stock. Don said we can't use the L word. So
that's a tough. That's a harsh word.
Before we go on, though, how do you guys feel about? Because I feel like this is happening more and more every year. How do you feel about guys skipping events at the combine overall? Like, do you like that? Because I sure don't. I feel like the combines are rite of passage. I feel like when you're doing that, you're telling people that you're better than what guys like Tom Brady and Terrell Owens and Randy this is part of the deal. Like, you know what I mean? You're stepping into the professional ranks and you should be doing everything. Like you're telling other people, future teammates, your peers, that you're better than them. I don't have to do this. And I think that's a mentality. Like if I'm a GM, I'm looking at that like I don't like that.
Well, Jerm, I was going to say, Emmett Johnson was also my second guy, but another guy I was going to put on there, which goes to Jerm's point, is Fernando Mendoza. Like the way I look at it is, it's not a strong quarterback class, and even if it was, you should want that competition. I'm going to go out there and throw with when Peyton Manning, the Ryan Leafs, kind of that draft or the draft that we've seen the last couple of years with 4 or 5 first-round quarterbacks, and for him not to, you start to wonder, like, yes, the film, I always say the film speaks for itself, but to your point, Jerm, like the other guys are doing this, and some guys had a lot to lose, like a Carnell Tate. So kind of props to him for still wanting to run the 40, because at the end of the day, you always have your pro day to make up for it, which is going to be a much more controlled environment to your own receivers. Your coaches are going to set up the drills. And it's like, so what do you really have to lose unless you truly maybe don't quite believe in yourself? Were you protected a little bit by your teammates? Were you protected by the coaching staff wherever you were? And it's not just Mendoza, right? We saw some other guys only take part in certain drills and then not others, but to not throw at all, it's like, okay, arm injury? No. So why are you not doing it? Why do you not want to just go out there and throw, especially for the quarterbacks. I can understand maybe some of the receivers, they don't want to tear something or pull something, or they're already going in, a little ginger. But like for Mendoza and throwing, it's like, you're not going to overly do it, right? They're not going to make you overthrow. And then you have time until your pro day. So I'm with you at this point. It's like maybe before, when there weren't all these cameras and interviews and television stations there. But now it's like, the NFL makes a big spectacle of it. And so if you want to be part of that NFL family, sometimes you got to participate in those things, even maybe when you don't want to.
I got to disagree, man. I feel like it just depends on the player. Like if I'm the quarterback, especially quarterbacks, if I'm projected to be the first overall pick, like what is in it for me to do anything at the combine? Because they're not there to see me. They're there to see the athletic quarterbacks and all the other skill guys perform. Really, the thing that matters the most for quarterbacks at the combine is the interviews.
JT,
like,
hold on, let me stop.
Hold on. I feel like NFL teams put more stock in pro days for quarterbacks than they do for the combine, because it is an environment they feel like translates more to what they're looking for. Now, I do feel like it just depends on the player. Like, I do feel like if your stock is so high and like you're a lock to go, let's say top 10, why would you put yourself in a position to be in an environment with so many variables that you can't control when you know that there's looking to nitpick you, like you said, to get the cheapest price, even if it doesn't mean you're a worse player? So I think because the NFL is a short shelf life for a career to start with, why are you putting yourself in a position to potentially mess up and cut your earnings before you even play your first down? Like, that's just the game, and that's the way the NFL has made it. If the NFL was like, you know what, we're gonna take care of our players, guarantee their contracts, throughout their careers, maybe guys will take the risk and go out there and compete, but they got to get their money first. Because if you go out there and you don't run the fastest 40 time, boom, that your draft stock drops and you're out of the first round. It happens every year.
But what I was speaking specifically of quarterbacks, and you were, when I tried to interject, because if none of the quarterbacks threw, JT, what are we doing there then?
Go to their pro days.
But the receivers have no one to throw to. But for some of those guys, they need that. Guys from the smaller schools.
If I know you use Tom Brady as an example. If Tom Brady, who was probably projected to not be drafted at all, is like, I'm not throwing, that's different. But this is Mendoza. We know he's going number 1 overall to the Raiders. At worst, number 3.
So then what's the difference?
Why?
You can't fall.
Why?
You can't fall. You
Why?
can't fall. Because you love football. How about that answer? Because you love football as much as he always says he loves football.
And you know what a wise man once said? If you're good at something, never do it for free. So if you want to see me throw,
listen, I understand. That's a different conversation, right? Tom Brady was a bad example. Andrew Luck, who by and large was the greatest college prospect of all time, competed in the combine. Now, to JT's point, he didn't throw. He did it at his pro day, but he did the events. I'm not speaking on terms of hurting your stock. I'm talking about camaraderie. I'm talking about being part of the brotherhood is kind of my thing. It's less about what you can project. If you're at the combine and you're eligible to be drafted, you're already good enough to play in the NFL is my line of thinking in that. If you're there for a reason. It's not about proving anything. It's about going through the grind with everybody else. And when you're a player choosing not to do, and we're not talking about one event like throwing for quarterbacks. I understand that the pro day is probably a better situation for you on that. But Andrew Luck was out there doing the 3-cone drill. He was out there doing the agility test. He was out there doing the 40-yard dash. You got players like Caleb Williams last year not doing none of that.
Athlete though. That's
I understand
what I'm saying.
that.
I feel like the quarterbacks that have strong athletic attributes, yeah, it's probably fun for them to do the combine. But if I'm Bryce Young, like, why the hell do I want to be out there? Like, I'm the number 1 pick. You're gonna tell me how short I am, how slow I am, and they're gonna pick me apart, and boom, now I'm not going number 1 overall. Like,
yeah, but he didn't. But he didn't do the But he didn't do the combine. And Caleb Williams did. Caleb Williams didn't do everyone.
He was there with Caleb Williams. I saw him talking to everyone, having fun.
Caleb Williams skipped the entire combine, but he was out there dapping up the groundskeeper like he owned the event, and he had a terrible rookie season, and people were dogging him because. Again, where was the main things they were questioning? They weren't questioning his ability. We saw that in college. They were questioning his heart. that goes into the decision making. That goes into you have no heart. You're not going to do the combine. You're not going to give up your medical records. You're not going to do the one thing that everybody else is doing. Why? Why are you special?
But this is the biggest opportunity of your life. Like, you got to play it safe. Like, that's like saying that's
and
like saying
that's my point, JT.
So let me ask you a question. So if a guy's injured and he's a top 5 pick, you're saying like, hey, look, if you want to show how tough and much of a NFL brotherhood you are, you got to go out there and perform.
Right. The guys we're talking about are not injured, though. They're actively choosing.
We don't know that. Okay. Football players are always injured.
Fair enough.
Well, I get what you guys are saying, but I feel like there's just too much money, and the NFL is too fickle when it comes to these kind of things, to where, like, if you know there's a good chance you're going to get a high draft pick with a lot of money, you just can't risk it. You can't put yourself in a position to risk it.
I'm going to end on this because we talked about Tom Brady. Tom Brady now is basically running the Raiders at this point, right? He's running that draft room. His word is going to be gospel in that draft room, right? And you watch any of the social media clips, anything on television, he talks about like 2 things. He talks about competitiveness and the process. Always, whether it's because of New England or when he was at Michigan, he wanted all the smoke with the QB room. He was going to rise up the ranks in the QB room,
because he had to.
But listen,
he had to.
But listen, so he talks about that all the time. And even now, when he was at his highest pinnacle, he always wanted that smoke. He always wanted to go against the Peyton Mannings. He didn't care about all that other stuff. He just wanted to compete. And so now he's going to go take a quarterback that did not do the combine. And yes, he may have won a national title, but that was a great coaching staff and a great team. And it just all came together. And he just happened to be the quarterback because the year before, they were also a really good team, but added a lot more pieces in addition to him. And now Tom Brady always talks about the process and competitiveness. Well, he didn't go through all of the process of the NFL combine. And then on top of that, he didn't want to throw. Why? To JT's point, maybe because people are going to pick at him, try to find holes in his game. Does he drop at all? Well, where's the competitiveness, Tom Brady? This is the guy you're going to pick. And remember this, if he does not pan out in the NFL. Now, that's not true for everyone, like the Caleb Williams and stuff. I can understand why certain guys don't. But Mendoza himself always talks about competitiveness and just love of the sport. And so does Tom Brady. And that's the guy he's going to take. And don't forget it. I said it here. When that does not pan out for the Raiders, we're going to wonder how competitive is he? Like, can he stand up in the NFL when he takes those shots?
Quarterbacks don't throw at the combine all the time. Matthew Stafford didn't do it. Joe Burrow didn't do it. Kyler Murray didn't do it. Drake May and Jaden Daniels, who were also in that same draft class with Caleb Williams, didn't do it.
And to Jerm Mai's point, that may not be correct. It may have worked out, but it may not be correct.
What this tells me, that's just the way it goes. If you wanted to change, NFL change the way you do business with players. That's all I'm saying. They can't risk it.
How do you want them to change it? Mendoza's going number 1 overall. Even if he had a bad day, he's going number 1 overall.
You crazy?
It's obvious.
What if he went out there and was been absolutely terrible? You don't think the Raiders are thinking about, all right, we might not take him number 1?
He's not going to be absolutely terrible.
How do you know?
What's he going to have a day like Drew Allen?
I'm in an environment throwing to guys I've never played with before, with no prep with these guys. It's all random, and now you want me to put my $35 million guaranteed future on the line just so you guys can call me a tough guy? No, I'm not doing that.
No, because again, we're not talking about hurting. I'm talking about literally doing the events because everybody else is doing them. It's part of the process. Mendoza could have a bad pro day because he's had a bad college game. The bad college game hasn't hurt his draft stock. The combine largely doesn't mean anything in terms, like, we're not talking about day 2, day 3 guys. If you're getting drafted on the first day, there's very little, like you talked about Denzel Boston. He's going to go in the top 20. Like, just because he
might not now.
He will.
Having a bad
100%.
He's not falling past the
might not. He might not.
I'm telling you right now, he will be a day 1 guy. I promise you that. I will buy dinner. You want to do a dollar bet? I will do a dollar bet. He will be a day 1 guy. And just nobody's going to give a shit about his drops. You know why? Because they have a bunch of college tape on him. He's fine. But he went through the process. And again, I'm not speaking in terms of the minutia of going through hurting your draft stock. I'm literally talking about, hey, this is part of the deal when you step into the NFL world. The combine is a rite of passage, and you actively not doing it is telling me that you are not all in. is telling me that you're thinking about yourself and not thinking about the team and the ultimate team sport, which is football. I'm literally only talking about the mentality that goes into it, not about the physical attributes. All these guys can play. And again, you can have a bad combine. We've seen it. We've seen guys, Tom Brady, who didn't do anything special at the combine, go on to be the greatest quarterback of all time. The combine doesn't tell us anything. The only thing that the combine tells us is who's about it and who's not. And the only real test is you doing the events, not how well you can throw, not how fast you can run, not how much you can bench. It's, hey, can you step in there with a bunch of other guys, cheer your brothers on, and try to get drafted? That's the test for me. And a lot of guys are failing that test, and more guys are failing that test as the years goes on because they're thinking about their own personal brands and they're thinking about the name on the back of the jersey instead of the name on the front of the jersey. That's my only point about it.
Well said, Jerm. And to wrap up the combine, let's go to this last one here. I think there's only one answer. Here. Who had the most insane performance, Jerm?
Oh, JT said it earlier. The Taylon Green, kidding me? QB out of Arkansas. He broke 3 separate quarterback records. He broke RG's RG3's 40-yard dash record, and then Anthony Richardson, he broke his vertical jump record and his broad jump record. He broke the combine. Like that's what you're there for. And so he had.
Do you agree, JT?
I wanted to put him, but I mean, I can't overlook what Sonny Styles did.
Yeah, it's Sonny Styles, Jerm. No offense. You had that great monologue, and then
I know. I couldn't. I already had Sonny Styles as my winner, so I couldn't have him as both. I didn't want to do him as both.
Man.
He could have been both. You're right.